Find faith here. Making fun of testing this when you go about the school. I just got 100. Okay, nothing's working with the PowerPoint. Well, it was working 30 seconds ago. What are you trying to do? All right, we got to get started here. You want to go ahead and receive? Okay. There we go. Good morning, and I can get started.
Let us pray. Father, we pray for those who bear the responsibility of leadership among the nations of the world. Give to them in all their deliberations wisdom to know your will, regard your laws, and respect for human rights. We pray that you may seek to lead all people in the paths of truth, freedom, and peace for the glory of your name. Father, please bring peace to our country and to our world. In your name we pray. Amen.
Please join me in the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, everyone. I know we've got a jam-packed program, and I'd like to just jump right in. Starting with announcements. Does anyone have any announcements?
Morning, everybody. We're 8 days away from our classic car show. This is the best in show trophy for that car show. Want to encourage everybody to come out September 1st, Sunday. Those of you who have volunteered, thank you so much for volunteering. If you haven't gotten a shirt, volunteer shirt, I have some over here you can pick up. Those of you that haven't volunteered, I would encourage you to come out and see the show itself. 3 o'clock are the awards. So that would be a sweet time to come, but we begin at 9 o'clock in the morning. So once again, thank you, and appreciate the volunteers.
Good job, Lou.
And you're doing a special category this year, right? That one that you haven't done before?
Yes. We're giving the Pete Fulbright Award. We did that last year too.
Right.
And Pete was an ardent sponsor of an enthusiastic sponsor and promoter of the car show for years. This is our 6th annual. And so we're giving a special award out in his name, and his wife and daughters are coming for the presentation.
Lou, if we want a preview of the car show, there's a gorgeous red Mustang that belongs to Mr. Gebhardt out there kind of showcasing on that corner. And so if you really want to see a preview of what car show look like, you might check that out. And I probably owe you $1 for that.
And there is a Rotarian Award, so you can bring the car and
Yes.
view all the other great cars that are going to be there. Thank you. Any other announcements?
Here.
Please.
There's a social get together at the North Market Bar after the car show. Starts at 5 o'clock. So, or is that's not it?
Yeah, it's basically.
No. All right. So let me regroup. There's an invite going out for the after party. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Michael. How was the river cleanup?
Oh, that was really good. We probably had 10 volunteers or so from Rotary, 50 altogether, and altogether they pulled 377 pounds worth of debris out of the river. So everybody had a great time, and we're looking forward to seeing what we can turn it into for next year.
Oh, that's great. Anyone else?
Kurt? Good morning. We're excited. September 6th, we're going to be inducting 5 new members to the club. So continue to grow the membership. So again, if you can come on the 6th to welcome the new members. Please encourage bringing guests. We have some great guests today, which we'll announce. But please bring guests, and that again can help grow membership. Can we do leadership that one? In addition, most of you are probably familiar with Leadership Dublin. Some of you have actually probably gone through the program yourself. It's a great resource here right in town, put on by the Chamber of Commerce. Last year, the board had elected to make a dedicated effort to invest in leadership and the future leaders of our communities, our businesses, and our club. So last year, we sponsored Dan Schwegman. So Dan, if you could come up. We sponsored Dan Schwegman through Leadership Dublin last year, and he's going to share a couple of his experiences from Leadership Dublin. But I want to make sure everybody is aware, we want to sponsor another Rotarian for this year. So if anybody is interested, please let me know. Please let Jean know. Email, call, text. We're glad to get another Rotarian in there. We have a couple that are interested, but please, if you'd like to participate, please let me know. So without further ado, Dan, if you could share your experiences from last year, that'd be great.
Sure. Well, it's been since May since I've been in it. So not everything stuck, but I do have this just in case you want to take a look at any of our agenda, any of the projects that we worked on. We also do a case study as well so that I can give you some information on. But I thought, what's the best information that I can give you on Leadership Dublin, and wanted to give you a sense of the structure and the type of people that are in there. You really started to notice microphone works pretty well. You started to notice that there were young professionals in there, those who have only been in their career for a couple of years, and then there were also people that were nearing retirement. So across the board, you had exposure to a lot of different people in different life stages of their career. Some who led companies, started their own business, and others who might be working as analysts for the city of Dublin. So it was a good group of people. There were around 30 of us on average. And the job was really just to get together every couple weeks, and usually from 3 to 5. So you have to have some flexibility in your schedule to meet the demands of the class. And most of the classes on the front end were about leadership in general. So understanding emotional intelligence, understanding how to be a good leader within your organization. And then you saw it start to transition into leadership within the community. So starting to get familiarized with how our community operates, what are the different leaders and their roles currently with Dublin. And then you got to do a lot of tours, whether it was through the Washington Township Fire Department or city schools or the city hall. You got to, or the police department. You even got to go down into the gun range. You didn't get to shoot guns, but you got to at least see what they do, where they work out, where they train, which was pretty neat. So you get an experience that maybe not most people who live in Dublin get to experience unless you're in this course. So I encourage you, come take a look at this booklet. It goes through our entire schedule. I can take a deeper dive into kind of the demands of what might be expected, and what I went through. But it was a fun experience overall.
How long was the program?
It was October to May. So, and you get a little bit of a break around the holidays, of course. But on average, it was every 2 weeks where we met. And some of the meetings were like the state of the city, that counted as a meeting, which was neat. I didn't even know that we did it, and I wouldn't have known unless I was at Leadership Dublin. So you get exposure to those things.
And did you do a project?
Yeah, I worked with Ohio Health. They were considering renovating a space of their Dublin location, and it was our job to figure out how to create like a community culture within the space. It was primarily for employee use, but they wanted to highlight all the unique things that Dublin had to offer. So our team came up with a plan to kind of add some Dublin elements to that space, which was nice.
If I could just pile on the project, there are within the city of Dublin, between the Chamber of Commerce and the city itself, are a series of projects that are created, and the teams are broken in. My guess is there might have been 3 or 4, maybe 5.
5, yeah.
And then the 30 each teamed up, and then in the spring of the year, you're working on a project, and a lot of them are feasibility studies, very well done, of course, that then are presented. And between the chamber and the city, they take those under consideration for possibilities of initiating events within the city. And I can share with you that a long time ago, the Field of Dreams was one of those feasibility studies. Some of you may have participated in what is now referred to as the Corporate Challenge, a fun couple of days of companies getting together and competing in fun stuff. That was a feasibility study. And also there, and I can't remember the name of it, but there is actually in the cemeteries in Dublin, there is a way that you can use your phone and scan and read about the veterans that have been are placed there, and it's an online service. That also is a feasibility study. So these teams are doing important work for the city, and a lot of this materialize in actual events or activities.
That's good. Well, I feel good. I got a couple questions out of it. So, yeah, all right. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks for sharing. It really is a great leadership development opportunity and also does a lot of great service to the community. I went through Leadership Dublin a lot of years ago. Sounds like I might remember more about it than he did, but just kidding. We did the branding for the Dublin Food Pantry. So the original branding, I think it's changed a little bit since, but it was a way to get that started and raise awareness for that. Please.
I'm one of the founding members of Leadership Dublin, and I'm one of the founding members of Leadership Dublin, and it's gratifying to hear what people have been doing through the program and looking to develop leaders as well as sustain the ones that they've been with. So thank you all for continuing to work.
Any other announcements? Hearing none. Sergeant of Arms is more.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You're so kind. I graciously appreciate your recognition of such a fine young man I am. So thank you. Anyhow, we have some guests this morning. Ingrid, you have a young man with you.
I do. Favorite young man, as a matter of fact. Bob Fields, I think most of you know Bob from all the years being with us, but he and I volunteered at the Columbus 500. It brought back many good memories, and so we just had to have hot trips this morning.
Perfect. Thank you. We also have a guest, Sarah Harris Mills. She's a new member. Tim, I think you have a guest. Okay, wherever. Tim.
Yeah. Mike High School is my guest. We worked many years ago at Aaron Anderson, and now he is a managing director at UPS.
Great, thank you. I believe I'm going to pronounce his last name correct. Chris Lee. Chris is a guest.
I have no sponsor, so I just showed up. I'm the principal technologist at Transform Labs. We're here in Dublin. We've been here for about 30 years. I'm also the CTO of Include Health. We do virtual PT across the country. And then I run the Columbus AI Meetup, which has about 1,200 members. So if you're interested in AI, you can talk to me about that. Otherwise, I'm very interested to hear what goes on here.
Great. Welcome. And I believe we have a guest by name of Jennifer Bruden. For Jennifer, welcome. Is that an R or an N at the end? Okay, thank you. Lane Halleck, beg pardon?
She's joining the club.
She's joining the club. Welcome. How about Lane Halley? I got. Oh, Lane. So glad to have you join us this morning. I do like your shoes. Did everybody get to take a chance to get a look at his fantastic pair of shoes he has on? Show him what you got. Yeah. We all need a pair. Any other announcements or any other birthdays, anniversaries? Hearing none. So today is a beautiful day in the neighborhood. It's August. It's going fast this year, so it's almost done. Lou's up the bat for the car show. So with that being said, the opportunity gives me the opportunity to find each and every one of you $1 today. Congratulations. And somebody will have to pass the hat because I didn't get a bucket. But anyhow, that'll be $1 for everybody.
I'll be happy to do that for you.
Well, thank you. You got something to collect it in? All right. The small pot is $23 and the big pot is $288. So, Gene, do you want to draw?
Sure.
All right, here we go.
The last four are 2103.
2103. 2103. All right. Ed, small or large?
Large.
Large, okay. Now we will draw for the small. Here we go.
2101.
Well, I don't think you can lose on that one, Phil. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Calvin. I'm introducing Andy Beal. Andy graduated from Carnegie Mellon University with a degree in chemical engineering in 1971. He moved to Columbus in 1978 to join Custom Coach Corporation as Vice President of Sales and Marketing. His next adventure was with Jim Truman at True Sports, where he was the Director of Marketing and Media Relations for Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course and the Columbus Ford Dealers 500. Andy retired in 2016 after 23 years with AIM Investments and lives in Powell with his wife, Joanne. They have 5 adult children, 11 great-grandchildren, and are expecting their first great-grandchild in November. So I got that wrong. 11 grandchildren and first in November. So congratulations and welcome.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much. Great to be here. I do this presentation a lot of different places, and I don't charge people to listen to it, but this is the first time I've ever been charged to be here. So wherever the gentleman went that's collecting the dollars, I've got mine there on the page or on the stage. At any rate,
That's a tax deduction for you.
great. John, you're familiar with those? Exactly.
Want me to collect your dollar?
Oh, there we go, right there.
Thank you, sir.
You bet. Good cause. That must be a Rotary tradition I'm not familiar with, but great cause for sure. At any rate, I started with Jim Truman back in 1985, and he immediately threw me to the wolves and said, okay, you're going to take over the media and the marketing for the Columbus 500, which had not run at that point. It was just in the works. And so a lot of years later, I had collected all the memorabilia for that race as I worked on the race, and it sat in my basement forever. And I finally decided a few years ago to put it together into this presentation. So normally this presentation is an hour long and 200 slides. I've cut it down to about 60, and hopefully I can get you guys out of here by 8:30. But at any rate, how did the Columbus 500 really come together? Well, before Buck Reinhardt, the mayor of Columbus back then, and before Jim Truman, before the Columbus 500 was ever conceived, there was a race called the 24 Hours of Columbus. Now, many of you might remember that. It was in 1905. So that was a while ago, but that was the first 24-hour race in the United States, and we had it right here in Columbus. There were 4 entrants, Roy Rep, Charles Soule, Lee Frayer from here in Columbus, and Fred Ballinger from Cleveland. The White Steamer was made in Cleveland as well. The Pope Toledo was obviously made in Toledo, Ohio. Couple of pictures from that race way back then on the left side. If you look up on your Google Maps, you will see that driving park where that race was held is still shown on the maps of Columbus. And it's also referenced in the signage out there on the near east side of Columbus. So we have a great legacy for auto racing here. The Pope Toledo car won the race, covering 828 miles at 34.5 miles per hour. So that was a big deal back then. And then came the Columbus 500 in 1985. And so I was very pleased to participate in that. Anybody here attend that race? I know you guys did over there. Okay, great.
a lot of times I do this, everybody gives me kind of a blank stare because if you weren't born by 1975, you probably don't remember being at this race. The race was run 39 years ago. So it seems like 10, but it's pushing 40. Buck Reinhardt, and I see that the Zoom is covering over a little bit of this, but Buck was 39 years old when we started this thing. He was in office from 84 to 1992, and he claims that he had this great idea to highlight the city of Columbus. And I don't know whether the audio is going to work here, and it's not, so we'll skip that. So the founder of Red Roof Inn, Jim Truman, who I worked directly for, claims that he went to the mayor with the idea and suggested that we have a race through downtown Columbus to highlight the city. But Jim also really wanted to drive through Columbus at 180 miles an hour. So that was the kind of the fun thing for him. So at some point early in 1985, he put Buck Reinhardt in Don Marsh's race car downtown and drove him around the city that the roads had been blocked off and scared the heck out of him. But they decided that it would be a good thing to have a race. So what does dyed-in-the-wool Politico do first? We hold a press conference. And so this was a few shots from the press conference. We had renderings of the racetrack. We had models of the city showing the racetrack, which is the thing on the right side, and had pretty good attendance there. In the top left, we got Alan Wilson, Jim Truman in the blue jeans, and Buck Reinhardt in the suit. And they presented the whole idea to the community. Most of the media were represented there. That's my wife in the bottom left, before I even knew her. So the Columbus 500 is the scene of our meeting. Truman was able to convince a bunch of car guys that also seemed to have some money to spare, that they should offer their time and resources to make the Columbus 500 happen. We had to get the Ford dealers to all try to get involved. And so you've got all 6 car dealers from Ford involved, and they became the name sponsors. And Truman actually gave the race $1 million to get this started. And I underlined the word gave because that will come into play later in my presentation. So a lot of movers and shakers in Columbus were involved. A couple of them, Jack Bowman, many of you remember Bowman's Steakhouse down on Dublin Road. Mel Dodge, the director of Columbus Parks and Recreation. John Frame was a radio guy in town. Rich Hillis is a resident of Dublin. Some of you may know him. Carl Horton had Horton Ambulance Company and was a race guy from way back in the 50s. Don Marsh, kind of the same thing. He was the founder of, the original founder of what became MAG here in Dublin. Paul Scott, an attorney, was very much involved, and Bob Johnson was the guy that had the brown trucks with the waffle stainless steel sides that drove around to various places to serve food to workers at lunchtime. He also was a driver in the 1965, maybe, Le Mans race with the GT40s from Ford. You may have seen the movie Ford versus Ferrari. Well, Bob Johnson was involved in that series of wins for Ford Motor Company. Great guy. So nothing in this world happens without a director of political affairs, and that happened to be Rich Hillis, who I mentioned a minute ago. Rich, I believe, still lives in Dublin and has an office down at the Huntington building. Then we had to find a guy to actually run this race, to day-to-day activities, to make things happen, pull it all together. And Jim was able to convince Alan Wilson, who was running the Brands Hatch racetrack over in England, convinced him to come to Columbus and take over, and they moved into Dublin as well. So there's a lot of ties to Dublin here. His wife, Desiree, is a Formula One racer. It's the only woman in the world who won a Formula One race, and which is quite an accomplishment. So in order to put on a race of this nature, you also have to get with the sanctioning body, which in this case is International Motorsports Association. A guy named John Bishop started that after he started the Trans Am series way back in the 60s. And we were able to secure a slot for the race, but it unfortunately was the first week in October. So for those of you, all of you who are familiar with Columbus weather, you never know what you're going to get in the first week of October. So we were concerned about that, but it worked out okay. And then to put on a race of any kind, you need people to actually run the race as it's going on. And that would be the Sports Car Club of America. Do we have any members of the Sports Car Club of America here? Ingrid and Bob, great. These people are indispensable in running a race. They, as the bottom right picture shows, they are the flaggers. They run everything that race when it's going on. So we had to come up with a race design, racetrack design, and Alan Wilson was very much involved in this process. And this is the layout that he came up with initially. And right in the bottom center of that picture, you can see City Hall. And so it was right in the middle of stuff. Crossed the river twice, went in front of Washington High, or I'm sorry, on Washington Boulevard, Central High School, which is no longer there, but COSI is there now. And so that's the layout that we generally work with, but we had two problems. We had to figure out how to transition the racetrack from Spring Street around to Long Street to come back into town. And we had to figure out where to put the pits for the race and the paddock where the cars are stored when they're not on the racetrack. So we solved the first problem by building a turnaround out between Spring and Long. Some of you may remember that. You would head out of town on Spring Street, make the turn 180 degrees, and you're on Long Street coming back into town. So that was a construction project that took a while to get done. Well, with Buck Reinhardt interested in having a race, those things happened fairly easily. And then as far as the pits and the paddock, we decided that we would use Broad Street for the pit area, and we would use Veterans Memorial as the paddock area, which worked out unbelievably well. When you're worried about the weather, if you can have all your cars inside a building, temperature controlled, it worked out just perfect for the Columbus 500. So if you were on the racetrack and you were going to take your normal racing line and not go into the pits, it would look something like that. And you would just keep going on Washington Boulevard. But if you needed to pit to change drivers or change tires or add fuel, then it would look a little different. You would go into the pits, stop at your pit, get what you needed, and then back out on the racetrack. I'm only familiar with one other race that I've ever been associated with that has this two-way pit area. And a lot of the drivers have not witnessed one of those and were very concerned about turning those cars at the end of that one westbound on Broad Street. But it worked out okay. We widened the area out and they could swing wide and swing around and get back on the racetrack. So Vets Memorial, as I mentioned, was a godsend to us as far as having a place to put the cars. 110,000 square feet in that building, and we were able to position all the cars inside. George Fern created this layout for us, and you can tell how many cars were involved in that race by looking at all the little slots on the drawing where they were actually in their own paddock. So that was a great deal for us. Then we had to market the race. And while I was involved in the marketing side, we needed a firm to actually do all the work. And so we put together a company called Chezes, Milgram, and Paglioni. And that was formed in order to market the race. Gary Chezes had been a ticket broker here in Columbus before Ticketmaster existed. And Jeff Milgram was in the event marketing business already and still owns a company very creatively named Event Marketing Strategies Company. And Larry Paglione, I bet many of you know, as he promoted and sold the memorial tournament for years and years and years. And I'm not sure where Larry is today, but he was involved in that. We were also able to get Anheuser-Busch Company to join the fray and offer their marketing might. And that had to do with Jim Truman's connection through the IndyCar team with Bobby Rahal. And we also got Kroger on board, and they basically support everything in Columbus. So they were eager to join in the fun. One point on this marketing stuff is that the signage that's involved is overwhelming, and they measure everything. How many signs you have, where they're located, are they in camera range, are they in sight of the grandstands? It's all about the signage. And so that was an important part of that whole process. We got the media on board. I'm only showing channel 4 here, but we had 6 and 10 and stations from Cleveland and Cincinnati and Dayton, all involved. Here's a shot of Jimmy Crum, Jim Ganal. Looks a little different back then, as we all do. Doug Adair, Mona Scott. So names from the past, but they were involved in helping mention the race on the air and get it on the road. So here's a shot of one of the press conferences that we had. And that's Earl Fannin on the left. He was with Camel Productions. They were involved with IMSA. Steve Minnick from, I think, Channel 6. And then on the right is Doc Bundy, one of the drivers in the race, and some other guy. I'm not sure who that is. The other thing that we did with the Columbus 500 is tie it into charitable contributions. And so we set it up so that every penny that was earned by that race over and above expenses was given to charity. So we supported Charity Newsies, which is an incredible group, Children's Hospital, Buckeye Boys Ranch. So we got a lot of money out there to a lot of charities, and that worked well. So now we have this racetrack, and we got to handle all the details to get ready for the race. We had to get the buy-in from all the affected downtown businesses that were in that area, because we were going to shut them down for 4 days. And that was not fun. There was one lady who owned a company, and I've been trying to remember her name, and it's not coming, but she gave us a hard time. And we had to literally write a check to these businesses in order for them to agree to let us run the race through downtown. We had to repave a bunch of streets in the downtown area to prepare them for a smooth racetrack. Brought in concrete barriers by the mile to surround the entire track to keep the cars from running through the lobby of the Levesque Tower. Also brought in chain link fence to surround the entire track to keep the cars out of the crowd. Welding down all of the manhole covers on the entire racetrack service area. And we had to do that twice because we discovered during practice that they all didn't stay welded down. That the aerodynamics on these race cars creates a suction as they drive, and they literally suck the manhole covers out of the hole. So that tells you how much downforce they have. We had to erect all those signs that I mentioned all over Columbus. 10 miles of TV cable for Diamond P Productions to do their TV work. And all of that was handled by Jim Truman's friend, Mac McDermott, who passed away, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, and but a great guy, and he got all of that done. So the turnaround that I mentioned, not in the pits, but on Long Street and Spring Street, is in this picture. And it's from this angle showing that when they get to the end of the straightaway on Spring Street, they have to make a left turn into that U-turn area or keyhole. And there's another shot of it from the other angle, which is from the grandstand looking down at that turn. And one side note, while we were erecting the grandstands for that side of the race along Long Street, we discovered 2 dead bodies that were presumably homeless people that passed away, and we found them as we were putting up the grandstands. That was not a good day. So in this race format of the Columbus 500, we had 4 different major race classes during the main races. There were a whole series of races. But we had the GTP, which is Grand Touring Prototype. And then we had the GTP Lights, which is a smaller version of the same car. We had IMSA GTO, which is more of a standard street car with an engine bigger than 3 liters and one with under 3 liters. We also ran a Kelly American Challenge race, a Champion Spark Plug race, and a vintage race during the same weekend. So there was a lot going on. So on the GTP side, this is the big car. This is what everybody loves watching. This is happens to be a Porsche 962, which has a 6-cylinder engine with 720 horsepower. Only 91 of them were made in a 7-year period from 84 to 91, and they dominated the series. Weighed 1,800 pounds and a top speed over 230 miles an hour when we went to, or when they went to Le Mans. I'm not sure what's going on with the mic. Is it going in and out? So as an example, you can buy one of these cars today. Is the battery dying? Not sure what's happening. This was advertised in 2022 at $1.2 million. And I just looked it up again, and there's another one available now at $1.5 million. So they have gone up in value, just like most everything else we buy. This was a Camel Light car, the 05 car there. That's actually Jim Truman in that car driving during the race. Cars that we've never heard of, most of us, the Alba, Argo, Tiga, Royale, Lola, Fab car. They're a 6-cylinder engine as well, and about 300 horsepower. A lot of local drivers were involved in this race. Jim Truman, that's getting annoying. Maybe I can just cover everybody. Jim Truman, Bobby Rahal, Kelly Marsh, Don Marsh's son, who owns Kelly BMW, John Fergus, Dick Greer, who owned the Aspen Inn, Colin Truman was Jim's son, Norm Chesron with Chesron Oldsmobile, Bob Fergus, a lot of people involved locally in the Columbus 500. So I mentioned Diamond P Productions. They came in to do the actual television production of this thing. They arrived with 20 cameras. As I mentioned, we had to string 10 miles of cable to hook them all up. And several days after the race, we found the Diamond P golf cart in the Scioto River. Just a side note. Lots of crazy stuff like that. So I have a video here. I'm probably going to let it run, even though there's no audio. It'll give you an idea. I'm not going to run the whole video because I'm running out of time, but this is Doc Bundy in the Ford Probe going around the track. And he's won at Le Mans, great guy, fun guy. And it's interesting to look at the graphics that were used. This was state-of-the-art stuff in 1985. That's that graphic you just saw. But these are the cars on the racetrack. They just went in front of the Levesque Tower. They're going down to make a hard left onto Spring Street to drive out through there. This is still on Front Street. We're going to hang a left onto Spring. And this is one of the fastest straightaways on the track. There's a bridge here with a bridge abutment that we had to deal with. Made it so they can only go to the right of that bridge abutment. And now we're coming up on that connector between Spring and Long. And so they'll slow down a bit for that and head back into town in another high-speed section. The fastest cars here maybe hit 175, 180 on that stretch of road. So I'm going to skip ahead here. This is a video of another Porsche 962 driven by Rick Nuke. And he has a little problem in the Porsche on lap 48. You can see the visibility from inside the car is a little tough right now, and it's going to get rougher. And as he made the turn onto Long Street, we noticed that he had a little oil leak and a huge fire. I've not ever seen one that big, especially in a 962. But I'll leave it go here until the guy comes with the fire extinguisher. That's Rick getting out of the car, and then the guy comes up with the fire extinguisher to put it up. Oh, he's got like a 2-pound fire extinguisher. Not gonna really do well, but here comes the rest of the guys. So that was okay. We got that cleared and continue the race. These races require, because of the length of the race, a driver change. And so this is Drake Olson getting out of the car and Price Cobb getting back in the car, and they strap in and go. So it's exciting. I'll skip this because there's no audio. So the winner in 1985 was who I just mentioned, Price Cobb and Drake Olson, in this Porsche 962, which happened to have the Budweiser name on it, of all things. And so Bud was very happy with that. There is the winner's circle downtown in front of City Hall. And in that picture are the team, the winners. John Galbraith is there. Rich Hillis is on the far right bottom corner. Buck's in there next to Price Cobb holding up the trophy. So a lot of fun downtown. There's a picture of John. He donated the trophy. So that's a sterling silver trophy, and he awarded us with that to give out to the winners. I was able to run that down. I found it out at Darby Dan Farms at Darby House. Squire Galbraith, his son, still has the trophy. It's in the basement. We went down, had to find a key, and brought it up to the kitchen, and I was able to shoot a bunch of pictures of it. But I'm trying to figure out a way to get that trophy so we can either give it to the city of Columbus or something in order to have it more on display. The only point here, this is a list of the winning teams. Fourth place, Jim Truman. Jim Truman actually drove in the race and finished fourth. If he'd had about 3 more laps, he would have been in third. So we can skip ahead. The whole event turned out really well. It was shown on TV to a total of 900 minutes of exposure in 22 million homes. The highest viewer rating of any sports program on the Nashville network. And they won an award, the International Monitor Award, for that production. So it went over really well. Am I running out of time here?
You are out of time, but I want to allow a couple questions.
Okay.
Why didn't they run it again?
Well, you remember the slide I showed you where Jim Truman gave $1 million to the race? Well, when we got into 1989, after finishing the 88 race, we had been paying that loan back to Barb Truman, Jim's widow, because he had passed away in 86. And she decided it was a loan and not a gift. And so we were forced to take a lot of those profits to pay her off on that loan. And we got to 1989 and we needed a loan from the city of Columbus for $250,000 to tide us over a few months until the revenues started coming in, and they turned us down. And they turned around in a few weeks later and gave $12 million to Ameriflora, which eventually happened in 1992 and a cost of some $120 million or something, but it was a major flop. So the Columbus 500 went away. We tried to resurrect it in 2008, I believe, and then the economic situation didn't allow for that, so nothing since. So that's the story of the Columbus 500, much abbreviated, but I appreciate your time today. Thank you very much.
And last question for me.
Yeah. There's a question.
So, you mentioned that the streets were shut down for 4 days. Just think about the business disruption and traffic. How long did it take them to stage the concrete barriers, the fencing? I mean, in reality, how long was the city sort of shut down?
Well, the concrete barriers were brought in several weeks ahead of time. They were able to place those barriers around the track in a 2 or 3 week time frame. but that didn't really disrupt the traffic flow. It was only the last 4 days as the race practices started that we had to close off the racetrack and do that. But it was a disruption, no question, but brought in all kinds of good positive reviews on the city of Columbus. John?
Any chance of having it again? Any chance of having it again?
Oh, well, we're looking at doing it in Dublin.
Andy can help with that.
Yeah, there you go. It is such a major undertaking, John, that we don't ever see it happening again here. There are still street races every year in Long Beach, California, and down in Florida in St. Petersburg, and those are run every year, but they have a different managing group in the city hall, and they get it done. But here it's pretty tough. Anybody else? Great, thank you.
And will you be able to stick around if anyone else?
Yes, I'll be here.
Oh, very good. Thank you. Next week, we don't have a meeting, so enjoy the time off, but please do plan to come and attend the car show on the 1st. On September 6th, we welcome former club member Steve Stivers, President and CEO of the Ohio Chamber of Commerce. Our closing quote comes from August A. Busch from Busch Beer, but Anheuser-Busch. The world we all share is given to us in trust. Every choice we make regarding the earth, air, and water around us should be made with the objective of preserving it for all generations to come. Thank you very much. See you soon.
How about